Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we brought another good one in. Wilton Jackson is in the house in terms of giving us an update. With that being said, welcome to episode 533 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, with the show that covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Wilton Jackson and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper, in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let me make sure I get this straight. Wilton Jackson, the second. I need to make sure y'all understand. We have the second in the house. With that being said, Charles, if you allow me to go to Wilton and just ask him as a guest, and I don't know, he's been on here regular quite a bit, certainly when you were in charge, and now even coming in off the bench with me, I recognize his talent. And when I need that sixth, seventh man, we start doing those presses, bringing Wilton in is always a nice luxury to have. Obviously, AD is always special. So, man, I'm getting me a nice little squad put together, Charles. We gonna be dangerous, man.
Yes, indeed.
All hands on deck, man. We got some fire here, man.
Hey, it's like bringing that 3-point shooter off the bench. That sixth man, man. He comes in firing. So, great addition to the team as well.
Yeah, you talking about the Olympics, men's and women's basketball? Shit, we might have us a goal coming in a little bit too.
How about that?
Wilton, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Dr. Cavil. Glad to be here. Glad you're having me on again.
With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency, a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics, I should say. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Had an opportunity to go out and catch a little bit of Texas Southern's practice the past couple of days, and it's a very interesting part of camp where you're after that first scrimmage, and you kind of in that grind part of camp now. So guys are really getting after it, and now you're starting to see depth charts kind of starting to get filled out and things of that nature. So it's very interesting to kind of sit up and watch it.
Now that you've had an opportunity to kind of
your little production there, man. Look like he's sweating out there.
Look, yeah, he was sweating out there. Got a chance to talk to him a little bit, but yeah, we getting into that dog days of camp, if you will.
Yep. We got a little bit of that camp. We'll get into that thing, and we might even have a little bit of Jackson State coach TD in terms of getting a little bit into that. With that being said, let me go to you on this news, Charles. Sticking with you, what's some news of the day? Before I do that, I guess I need to stay in front of this. I'll do that. FAMU interim president asked for leadership, team resignation. This came from HBCU Game Day. We heard this in the blogs, social media platform out there. I was fascinating with this news just from so many different frameworks, and hopefully at the latter part of the show, maybe the last segment, we'll get a chance to step in this a little deeper. But obviously by now, everybody's kind of heard the news. They follow HBCU at any level. The new Florida A&M interim president, Dr. Timothy Beard, is wasting no time in making changes at FAMU, and he isn't starting small. According to the documents acquired by HBCU Game Day, Beard has asked for the immediate resignation of members of the FAMU senior leadership team by the end of today. The Florida A&M University senior leadership team of the university includes, according to this document, the chief operating officer, the provost, general counsel, athletic director, chief of staff, communication director, and several other key cabinet positions. I would imagine it means VP of student services, certainly affairs, which is amazing to me because it's my understanding school starts next week or the week after that. I think it's next week. FAMU is slated to begin the fall semester next week and plays its week 0 football game against MEAC SWAC Challenge in Atlanta next week against Norfolk State. The letter was and was accompanied by a suggested response form seeming to expedite the response time. So while this is a good point that HBCU game they put in there, I think a lot of people are not familiar with higher education. States that while it's not uncommon for interim presidents to make changes, certainly a sweeping change of a senior leadership is just days before the start of the fall semester is curious timing. And critical decisions for the successful school year are made during the time based on the factors of enrollment and other components. With that being said, so like I said, we'll get into discussion, maybe get your thoughts on that, particularly how this affects sports. For me, it goes way different than that in terms of the academics when we talk about the provost as well. A lot of things going on. It'd be amazing to kind of see how this goes forward. With that being said, Charles, do you have any other news that you wanted to get into before we get into the poll ranking?
Well, yeah.
It's the final 7, Charles. Major division.
7
is coming up today.
Let's take a look at it. And the Team USA sprinter with HBCU ties wins Olympic gold in the women's 4x400 meter relay. This comes to us from HBCUsports.com on the final day of track and field at the 2024 Summer Olympics. Former Livingstone track and field athlete Kenyatta Hayes won gold as part of the American women's 4x400 relay team. In the first round of the 4x400 relay heats, Hayes clocked a 51.27 split on the first leg. The team finished with a time of 3:21.44 to win their heat and advance to the final. And in the final, Team USA cruised to victory, setting an American record with a time of 3:15.27.10 seconds off the world record to claim gold. So kudos goes out to Kenyatta Hayes with the HBCU ties winning gold at the 2024 Summer Olympics.
Olympics, big deal when you get in there. You get a gold, man. And Americans did pretty well. Won overall medals and tied China for golds. And they actually came down to that women's championship game that was really close. That I'm sure that if you're a sports fan, you followed pretty closely. And if you didn't see it live, you certainly heard about it in regards to only a foot on the line made sure that it didn't go to overtime and that U.S. and the women were able to get their 8th consecutive gold medal, which means there was a tie for overall gold medal at 40-40. What you got, Charles?
And Doc, we just got to mention it real quick. I mean, Steph Curry exploding. Oh, my God. I mean, the way he exploded there in the final 2 minutes of that game. Oh, my goodness. I was glued to the TV.
That's what you call vintage Steph Curry. This is what we have been watching the last decade. Like that last 3-point shot that it's like you were sitting there, you thought to yourself, like, Steph, what are you doing for real? Like, are you really throwing this shot up? But if you watched him closely, you knew, like, okay, this is probably gonna go in.
It's going up. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Great points there. Before I ask you for an update on whatever news that you wanted to share, Wilton, I do want to say in regards to what that looks like, it's really exciting because over the years I've become more fan of players than maybe teams. Obviously, I kind of have the team I grew up with, which happens to be the Lakers, from that perspective. But to find an opportunity where you could just cheer for Steph, particularly when you look at those three, KD, LeBron, and cheer them on as a team was fascinating when you really recognize the greatness of those players and them coming together to get it done was amazing. And then you had some of the young guns getting it done as well with Booker. And it's fascinating to see what that looks like. Back to some HBCU thoughts. Wilton, what's on your mind?
Well, like Charles kind of mentioned, I mean, it's that time of the year. You know, camps are getting, you know, those dog days, like he mentioned. I was at Jackson State's press conference on Monday, and, you know, Coach Taylor was saying to himself, like, the players, they're tired of looking at each other. They've been going at camp for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks now. And, you know, if I'm a football player, even aside from Jackson State, if I'm sitting here looking at my teammate for the last 3 weeks, I'm like, man, I'm tired of sitting by you. I'm tired of smelling you. I'm just tired of looking at you. I need to hit somebody else besides you. I need an opponent to take my frustration. Now, I mean, I'm already in here lifting weights. You know, I'm going to, you know, extra sessions. I'm dealing with coaches in my ear talking about I did something wrong in a drill. I need something else. I need my opponent. And that's honestly, that's just what it comes down to. It's these last couple of weeks. But I'm hoping that for every team amongst HBCU ranks and just college football, period, that they're literally every player is taking this time to really, really hone in on the fundamentals. Because how many times do we see in the beginning of the season where teams have jailed throughout the summer, but it's nothing like real time in football games. And when it's on the line, when the clock is started, you got to get that first down or you got to make plays to win games. This is the time. This is why you were going through all those drills and all those moments during practice, and this is where it counts now.
Great point. And we're just a little over a week or so away from things really getting started with the toe meeting leather. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video, Charles, if you would, in terms of Texas Southern's football coach, Coach Disman, being at practice that we kind of snuck at. Let's go ahead and play it in full, and then you can provide some additional content.
No doubt.
The film from Saturday. What are your observations post first scrimmage?
Saturday was very good. Today's practice was very lackadaisical. I think we had too much success on Saturday. Everyone thought we won the SWAC already. So we got to get these guys to realize that every day you got to come to work. Every day you got to come to work with your hard hat up and ready to work. Today was very lackadaisical. Had too many penalties, too many jump off sides, people holding, missed kicks, drop balls. It's just very lackadaisical. So it's on the guys, it's not on the coaches. I'm putting all this pressure on the guys. Not pressure, it's expectations. I expect them to come out and do a lot better than what they did. Today was a very shitty day for us.
With regards to the expectations, we take a look at this part within camp. Is it normally a grind around this part of camp?
As any camp, guys who play on Sunday is grinding. Guys who play on Saturday got to grind. You got to grind if that's what you want to do. They chose this job. I'm asking them to do their job. That's the only thing I'm asking. I'm not asking them to be superheroes. I'm asking them to just do their job.
Sure thing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
He kept it real.
Hey,
Say, Charles, you get some good footage, man. You got him. I mean, he looked fried. He looked frustrated. Like, man, what did I sign up for?
and you know, Doc, it's very interesting because I like showing up at camp around this time, especially after that first scrimmage, because you and people sometimes present this, you know, glorious, great camp, but the reality of it is there are some good days and there are some down days, and this past day was a down day. So everything is not, you know, this crescendo going up. You're going to have ebb and flows. And then I think that was a very real portrait of what camp really is for all these teams coming into the season.
Man, I love you bringing that perspective like that. It's really some great insight, giving people a chance to kind of get behind the scene and see what's taking place, as so many people do not get that opportunity. So the fact that you're able to get out there and share that, I appreciate it. Stick with us. We'll be back after our first break. We'll come back on the other side, and it's time to unveil of the top 21, the final 17s, that top 17s of Dr. Phil's 2024 preseason poll ranking. And we'll remind you of the overall 21 after we get these guys to tell me what they think of this top 7. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less. So it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Let's get into this power ranking. We're going to start with the bottom 7 of the top 7. Starting out with none other than South Carolina State Bulldogs. They're in the top 7. New coach coming over from Benedict. No introduction needs to be said. They finished 5-6 last year, 3-2. A lot of transfers, a lot of talent. Will they be ready? Can they take that next step? I don't know. I'm just saying. Shennis Berry, little magic, 157 points, finds his way in the top 7. I'd like to see if the guys agree with this. Check this out. At number 6, staying in the MEAC, The MEAC is hot and heavy. Is all the talent in the MEAC now. Last year, swept it. MEAC challenge. Got it done at the end of the year. Finally bringing home the Celebration Bowl with FAMU. Well, the first two in the top 7 are coming out of the MEAC. Morgan State Bears, 4-6 last year. 3-2 in terms of what they did in conference play, coming down with a chance to at least have a share of the crown. I know they don't recognize it in the MEAC in terms of the regular season. They find a way to only give it to whoever wins the tiebreaker if there is a tie. But that's Damon Wilson, 166 points. He comes in at number 6. Well, at number 5, we're going to go back down to the South, if you would, a little deeper South. We're going to go into the South in terms of the Southwest Athletic Conference, and we have none other than Alabama State Hornets. Eddie Robb. Charles, you know a little something about Eddie. He said he used to ride the bike with you. He wanted me to let you know. I don't know.
Let me tell you something.
Claim something different.
Coach Robinson knows every bike route around here in Houston. Every bike route.
That's what he told me. 7-4 overall, 5-3. They took the next step. They beat Alabama A&M Bulldogs in the Magic City Classic. Got a couple of other big wins down there, but finished 5-3 with 177 points. They're not ranked. They got a transfer quarterback that came over to Texas Southern. A lot of people are interested, and he got a couple of other transfers. So they say there's a quarterback battle. Maybe not, depending on who you believe. Andrew Body. Many people believe at the end of the day he will be the starter, and they got a matchup as they will be playing in the Orange Blossom Classic. But they have won first place vote in terms of coming in at number 5. Bringing us to number 4. We're going to go back to the MEAC. That's 3. That's 3 of the top 7 coming out of the MEAC. They said MEAC wasn't playing no football no more. Well, according to these numbers, I don't know. But the Howard Bison that played in the MEAC played in the Celebration Bowl with a chance to play for a championship. They played against FAMU. Really close game, entertaining, had the game lead late in that game, but could not get it done after winning the MEAC. After dethroning North Carolina Central, that was a top 10 team in the FCS poll ranking, number 1 and 2 in many people's HBCU poll at the time. But they finished the season last year at 6-6, 4-1 in the conference. They have one first place vote with 181 points. So 7 is South Carolina State Bulldogs, and number 6 is Morgan State Bears, and number 5, Alabama State Hornets, and number 4, Howard Bison. In terms of those Bisons, they are led by Larry Scott. Charles, let me know your thoughts in terms of this bottom 4 of the top 7. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's take a look at it, because I believe 7, 6, 5, and 4, 7, 6, 5. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt they will have some of the most formidable defenses in all of HBCU football. South Carolina State bringing 15 guys back with starting experience. Aaron Smith, linebacker, potential Sunday guy. But the question mark for South Carolina State, Morgan State, and Alabama State, obviously, is at the quarterback position. When you take a look at South Carolina State, you can make an honest argument that the quarterback position held them back last year. We all saw that in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Morgan State, same thing. Defensively, they will beat you up. Very physical team. Ty Smith is coming back for Morgan State, but can they do anything offensively? I think that's the $1 million question with regards to Morgan State. Same thing with Alabama State. Will Andrew Body actually be the starter? I mean, you hear some rumblings out of Montgomery that it's not a foregone conclusion that he will be the number 1 QB. So I think those are question marks around those teams. My question is, Howard arguably has the best 1-2 running back punch in HBCU football when you talk about Eden James and Jared Hunter. Again, question marks. at quarterback position. Who will play quarterback? Quinn Williams gone. But for me, with the amount of firepower and the offensive line that we saw last year with Howard, I see them up a little higher.
Fascinating. Good point. Woo! Charles got a challenge already out there, Will. Jackson in the second. What do you think about these first four in this top 7?
Oh boy. I don't dislike the list. I will say this. I maybe would have switched.
I hope you don't dislike it.
I would have.
My list.
I will say this though. I think I might get a lot of flack for this, but I would have switched South Carolina State with Prairie View. I know Prairie View was at 8. I maybe would have put Prairie View.
I think you can make that argument, and I think you said that last week that you thought Prairie View could drop in that top 7.
Exactly. I think South Carolina State could be number 8. However, I do think with a coach like Chennis Beard and obviously the players that he's brought in and that they have returning, I think they're going to be okay. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at that spot. Morgan State, again, simply put with what Charles said, I know their defense is going to be lights out. It really comes down to who's going to be their quarterback, and can that particular quarterback that they choose under Damon Wilson, can he be consistent and move the ball down the field, essentially. With Alabama State, I'm ready to see Andrew Body do what Andrew Body does when Andrew Body is healthy. And if Andrew Body is not healthy, we won't see a consistency on offense per se, if he's a starter. Because like I said, we all have heard those rumblings if he's going to be, whether or not he's going to be the quarterback. So those rumblings do exist. Howard, quarterback play, obviously that becomes a thing depending on who they start at quarterback, but their running game is lethal. And if they look anything like they did last year, you could probably see them being where they are and or potentially being higher.
Ooh, man, hot takes. Y'all said some of these folks might be a little too low. I like the way you think in terms of at least saying that I might have got it right in the top 7 outside of Prairie View and Bubba McDowell. What I'm hearing in camp, the question mark coming in was quarterback. That may not be a problem. So we'll see if that holds true. We'll find out pretty quick Labor Day weekend. If that is the case, should be fun. But with that being said, stick with us. After we take our next break, we'll come back and give you the top 3. Perennial 3. When we talk about Olympics, kind of playing, I know it's over, but it's only 3 that get on the stand. That is the bronze, the silver, and the gold. So we're going to give you that top 3 when we come back after this break. We'll see what these gentlemen say in terms of things moving forward. If you paid attention for the last couple of weeks, you know who the top 3 are just from process elimination. But what you don't know, what spot will be these top 3 teams. We'll see what that looks like. Stick with us. We'll come back right after the break, and we'll break it down and give it to you and see what these gentlemen think of my top 3 and who gets the point.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into this top 3. Oh my goodness. Do we have a little bit of fun? Can we get some SWAC attention? Maybe so. Let's get into the SWAC. B.C. Taylor, Jackson State is in the house. The Jackson State pre-game 1400 Street. You know, y'all got so many names. I forget them all. I don't know which one to use, but I know one. T.C. Taylor, second year, is at the helm. Well, I just put a little additional pressure on it. They say all the talent is in the East. Well, it seems like it may still be in the East. Jackson State at number 3. They finished last year 7-4, 5-3. Have one first place vote, 203 points. I'm fascinated to see what these Tigers are going to do. Well, they get a little idea. We'll see what that looks like. That is number 3. Bringing us to number 2. Florida A&M Rattlers 12-1 last year, 8-0 in conference play, 3 first place votes. Defending Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, pretty much consensus champions of 2023 with 218 points. They are at number 2 coming out of the SWAC. That means 3 of your top 7 are not only out of the SWAC, they are in the Eastern Division. So it may be hard to find a way to stay in the top 7 since they have to play each other, or maybe they'll just knock everybody else around and stick right there. But that'll be fascinating. We also have 3 in the MEAC. Well, you find out it's actually 4. North Carolina Central Eagles finished last year at 9-3, 4-1. They have 220 points, 5 first place votes, so getting 2 more first place votes than Florida A&M. Just edging them out in terms of total points by 2. This also means that in the Orange Blossom Classic, you'll get a top 5 matchup. In terms of Dr. Cavil's poll rankings, you'll have number 5 coming out of the SWAC, Eastern Division, Alabama State Hornets, and you'll have the number 1 North Carolina Central Eagles putting it online the very first week. Boy, you talking about a nice matchup between MEAC and SWAC. You also have the number 2 team in my ranking playing the MEAC SWAC Challenge. The opening, they played Norfolk State, which is in the top 20. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Obviously, I started with you, Charles, so I'm going to go to Wilton now, give his thoughts and save your final top 3 for last. Charles, I set you up a little bit with Jackson State being the top 3. I put that monkey squarely on y'all back. Wilton, I know you like that as well. All that love y'all got for Southern. But now you got to deal with the punishment. I got Jackson top 3. Do you like it? Are you comfortable with Jackson State being at 3, FAMU at 2, North Carolina Central at 1? You got an argument? You want to see something else? Tell me how you feel about the top 3 here.
I like the top 3. I don't necessarily know if it's fully correct right now. I say that because what? You remember when I said last week on the show, I said the champions I feel like should always be at the top coming in. So obviously, I know FAMU is there, but I also remember last year how Alabama State beat Jackson State. So, and also we know who the favorite is out of the SWAC East right now coming into the season, out of the SWAC East specifically. So do I think that on today, August 13th, is Jackson State going to beat Alabama State? I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a great game, actually. And I say that
the game is in
Montgomery.
Yeah, it's in Montgomery.
Oh, it's in Montgomery.
And not only is that game in Montgomery, but I'm gonna take a note out of Charles' book. That game, when they play Alabama State, that's after Mississippi Valley. That's in November. It's a road game, and they play Alcorn the following week.
There you go.
Ooh, yeah,
and I'm just like, that's gonna be a tough stretch.
Yeah,
real tough.
Like the way you think. See, you're bringing in the schedule. That's when I know that y'all are experts and y'all ready for the football season. Y'all look at players, y'all look at talent, y'all look when the game is played, where the game is played. what games are played before it in terms of what it looks like from a scheduling perspective. That's a lot of great analysis, Will. I really appreciate what you did there.
And not only that, I want to make this point too. As far as talent wise, I think Jackson has plenty of talent. Obviously having talked to Coach Taylor, his press conference on Monday, Jacoby and Morgan obviously was the starter last year throughout the middle portion of the season until the end. But there are some rumblings there that potentially he, I won't necessarily say he won't be the starter, but at the same time, there's some competition there. The running backs room there is going to probably be phenomenal again. Irv Mulligan will be back. JD Martin will be back. From what we've been told from Coach Taylor, offensive line, defensive line has been beefed up some, so that'll be interesting there. With FAMU, we know the talent is there, but with everything that's going on, which I know we'll talk about in that last segment, I'm wondering, will that play a part in this team in the focus? With the program, I don't think that they lack the talent. I'm just wondering, will that level of focus still be there with everything going on with the university? North Carolina Central, we know what the program brings. Obviously, they get Jamari Taylor back. No more Mookie Collier. He's gone, but interested to see what they look like coming into this upcoming season.
Great breakdown. I like the way you did the tease coming out of the break. We'll get to listen to TC Taylor a little bit during that interview session that you had and the questions that you broke down. So I'm excited about that. Give some people some more insight. But with that being said, Charles, obviously we talked about TC Taylor. At number 2, you have James Colsey. The third, his inaugural season coming in. He'll have an interim athletic director, an interim president, an interim provost in terms of the academic side of the house. So it's going to be fascinating with all that newness. Can he still push forward? Because we know there's a lot of talent there.
Sure.
I don't think the talent is going to be the issue. Can you get them to gel? Can you get them to stay hungry?
Yeah.
Right? Can you get the new guys to buy in terms of what it means to be a Rattler? We talk about that with some of these blue blood programs, if you would allow me, or the branded programs I like to talk about at HBCU. And then you have number 1 on the Trey Oliver. So it's fascinating to see what that looks like. Let me know, what are your thoughts on my top 3 here?
Well, I think when you take a look at Jackson State, undoubtedly, I think they're a very talented team. But Alabama State can point to the scoreboard against Jackson State. And I think that's something that I keep in mind. Right now, as where I would start the season, I would probably swap them within the top 5. I think just as I talked about Howard with a dynamic 1-2 punch in the backfield, I don't think there's a deeper running back room in HBCU football than Jackson State. The question becomes, can Jackson State's passing game balance things out? And I think that's the question that surrounds Jackson State's quarterback. Can he put some pressure on defenses downfield to where it opens up those running backs? And they have a bevy of running backs. And, when you talk about Irv Mulligan, prior to him getting hurt last year, probably I would think just the best running back in HBCU football. But you add, you mentioned JD Martin. You talk about Ahmad Miller, another hard running back that can run in between tackles, bounce it outside with speed. They have a deep running back room. The question becomes for Jackson State, can that passing game, can it do enough to open things up with regards to the running game? And I think TC talked about it. I listened to his presser, how deep they are on the offensive line and defensive line. So are they physical? And I think one of the hallmarks of Jackson State football is a physical offensive line to go with that running game. So those are things I'm going to be keeping in mind when you take a look at Jackson State. Florida A&M, I have no problem with them being number 2, but let me back into this the way Florida A&M, the pundits sort of told me last year. There is no way you can lose that amount of talent and the head coach and just expect to reload and be right back in the thick of things. Listen, I think that there is a talented as bunch as any team out there, and you saw what they were able to go out and go do on the recruiting trail. But we said the same thing about Jackson State last year. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be a tough go for FAMU. I'm not saying that they're not going to be, they're not going to cause some headaches for teams, but to go 12-1 again, that's asking a bit much. But I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of Florida A&M team that we're going to see this upcoming year. I think there'll be some more headaches along the way, a bumpy road. Take a look at North Carolina Central, and I say this with the utmost regard for Trey Oliver. Davis Richard is not in the building. I think that's huge. And I'm going to need Josh Sims, Captain Eagle himself, to kind of explain to me why everybody is very, very high on North Carolina Central. But the question for me is, Davis Richard, those type quarterbacks come once every 10 years. I mean, do you remember who the quarterback was after Steve McNair? Do you remember who the quarterback was after Devontae Kincaid? Not too many people remember Norris Brown, who followed Steve McNair. Not too many people remember Jeremy Hickbottom, who followed Devontae Kincaid. That's a tall task for Walker Harris. But I think, they bring back quite a few pieces, but I don't know if I'm ready to stamp them as the elite of the MIG. I still think you have to go through the Howard Bison.
I don't have a problem with you saying that they have to go through Howard Bison, and certainly understand your concerns on the Eagles, particularly when you have really a generational quarterback that came through. My thing that I think you also can't look at that in a vacuum, to your point, which in a lot of ways is the fact, what does everybody else have coming back?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so I think that's part of it. If you had other teams that had quarterbacks coming back like last year, I think you probably wouldn't see Central as high. I think part of this is the coach. People are familiar with him. He's become the sure package. He's done it a little bit before Davis and really shot out the gate when he got Davis in his junior year. And then last year he excelled with him in terms of the senior year. So I think that's part of it. But I don't know if there's probably some people would argue the quarterback that has the most time out there in a system is Walker at North Carolina Central. He played one full game. Yes, it was against Valley and nobody saw it. It probably hurts there. But he got a lot of time in a lot of those games because most teams, they were beating teams up. So he played quite a bit of ball. And he played in some meaningful games in terms of the playoffs. You don't get much meaningful than that in the second half in terms of what that looks like. So he's played some games. So I think that's one of the things people are comfortable saying, at least he's been in the action. Everybody else kind of wait to see who that quarterback is. We had a lot of folks coming into the season thinking one quarterback, and we're already hearing in camp that there's a second quarterback pushing him. Now, what is that camp talk that you discussed earlier and putting out there? I think it's fascinating. But I think some of this is not so much about people's confidence in North Carolina Central, but it's confidence in the coach and their concerns with everybody else. Sure. To your point, and not having as much confidence. And I think that kind of goes when you broke down and saw all the people that got a first place vote. You literally had 5 teams that got a first place vote. We haven't seen that over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 teams that got a first place vote. We got 5 teams, and even the separation between 1 and 2 is 5 and 3. And to your point, even with FAMU that you have a lot of talent, there's still question in terms of can Cozy, the continuity, coach, can he push through? Can he get past of being, a first-year coach at FAMU? Obviously, he has other head coaching experience. So I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. And I think that was an indication when you think about the predicted order of finishes. I remind everybody, in the MEAC was Delaware State, 22, Norfolk State with 1 first-place vote, South Carolina State with 2 first-place votes, 78.50 respectively, Morgan State with 1 first-place vote with 80 points, Howard with a 4 first-place vote at 92, North Carolina Central with 4 first-place votes. So you had 2 teams with first-place votes with 110 points. So that gives you some indication, if you look back, that even the coaches and SIDs are not that confident in who they're saying won. It's really jumbled up and close. Let me take you to the SWAC West. People kind of got surprised in terms of who's won, but if you look closer at it, you had 6, Texas Southern at 40, Arkansas Pine Bluff at 61, Southern with 70 points with 1 first-place vote, Grambling third with 72 points with 4 first-place votes, Prairie View number 2 104 points with 8 first-place votes. Alcorn with 112 points and 11 first-place votes. That's only 3 first-place votes difference.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot of difference when you start talking about at 1, 2, and some people even slip to 3 and 4 with 4 teams getting a first-place vote. You go to the East Division, we talked about 3 teams in the top 7 in my ranking, but look what they have here. Mississippi Valley State with 31 points. Somebody even gave them a first-place vote. We'll discuss that later. Bethune-Cookman with 47 points. Alabama A&M, 76 with 4 first-place votes. Jackson State, 87 points total with 2 first-place votes. Florida A&M, 104 with 6 first-place votes. And Alabama State, 114 with 11 first-place votes. A little more difference there in terms of first and second. But if you look at second, third, and fourth, that's actually 12 first-place votes outside of the number 1 team.
Mm-hmm.
So the separation there is not quite as big as it's seen. Let me give some love in terms of Tennessee State. They were picked 4th in terms of the OVC Big South partnership they have. And then when you talk about the Colonial, you have North Carolina A&T in a 16-member league. They came in 4th team in terms of what their expectation are. And Hampton came in 12th, where you see them outside of that. So as we close this segment, get in the next one, let me say this. Then 21 was Delaware State Hornets out of the MEAC. And number 20 was North Carolina A&T Aggies out of the Colonial. The CAA, I know it's Coastal now, 1-10 last year. 19 was Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils out of the SWAC, 1-10 last year overall. At number 18, Arkansas Pine Bluff, 2-9 out of the SWAC. At 17 is Texas Southern Tigers, 3-8 out of the SWAC. Number 16 is Hampton Pirates out of the CIA, 5-6. I did talk about Walker, but a lot of folks are looking at Hampton in terms of their quarterback play maybe being the best HBCU. So it's fascinating to see what that looks like. Getting in the top 15, and number 15 is Southern Jaguars, 6-5. Y'all thought that was too low. We'll see if that resonates later. At number 14, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, 3-8. 13 is Norfolk State Spartans, 3-8. They were picked 5, right? A lot of people are saying, hold on. And that's going to be fascinating in terms of that MEAC SWAC challenge. Can they make a statement and shock the world? We'll see what that means. At number 12, Grambling State Tigers, 5-6. At number 11, Tennessee State Tigers. Can they get over the hump? Past just having a winning season, can they do some damage in OVC? I'm interested, obviously, in that Pine Bluff versus Tennessee State Southern Heritage Classic matchup. That was a close game last year. Can Pine Bluff shock the world and really put a dent in what the Tennessee State Tigers want to do? Number 10, Alcorn State Braves, predicted to win the West. Number 9, Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 5-6. People are questioning, are they going to take the next step? Are they for play? Are they for real? That's interesting there. At number 8, Prairie View A&M Panthers. Some people think they're too low, 6-6, 6-2. I think Raymond Holly, Fire said, G-Boom Holly said they should be 5. At number 7, South Carolina State Bulldogs sitting at 5-6, 3-2. Interesting. Everybody is fascinating to see what that looks like. Their first game is on the road in Tallahassee to FAMU. So that will get interesting real fast. At number 6, Morgan State Bears sitting at 4-6. At number 5, Alabama State Hornets 7-4, 5-3. At number 4, Howard Bison 6-6. At number 3, Jackson State Tigers 7-4. Number 2, Florida A&M Rattlers 12-1. So that is saying a 2 versus 13 in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And number 1 is North Carolina Central Eagles 9-3. So in the Orange Blossom Classic, you have a 5 versus 1 matchup in week number 1. It should be fascinating when we get all this. As we said, we'll close this chapter, come back on the other side, give you a little insight from TC Taylor. Then we'll get a little time to talk a little bit more about some of my concerns and get your concerns in terms of the decision made by the interim president under the guidance of the board of trustees at Florida A&M University. Will this affect athletics? Will it affect particularly the football team? But you also got volleyball. It'll be fascinating to see what that looks like as we come back on the other side and get my thoughts and you all's thoughts based on my thoughts in terms of how we move forward after we watch the TC Taylor video. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be. You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel. Yes! That's how you waffle! Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel. A business big leaguer. Go for key. Even the ultimate pool float inflator. With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
Atlanta, Georgia. The HBCU football capital hosts the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge on August 24th. Florida A&M Rattlers, Norfolk State Spartans. SWAC versus MEAC. The rivalry is real. Come out to Center Park Stadium to see the returning HBCU national champions and two of the best HBCU bands in the land, the Marching 100 and the Spartan Legion. The day starts with a kickoff fan experience tailgate and concludes with a primetime matchup on ABC. For more information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. And with that being said, let's get in here and play the T.C. Taylor video from his press conference at this point here.
Coach, you talked about your quarterbacks, but what is the running backs room looking like?
Pick one. You know, you can basically pick one. But we got a freshman over there that's looking really good, Travis Terrell out of Georgia. Is going to be a special player. You still got Irv coming back. You still got J.D. Martin back out there. Amon Miller is still here. You know, Desmond Moultrie is still here. Nate Blunt, a local kid from Brandon, is having a great camp. There's just so many of them over there that can run the football, but all of them kind of bring something a little different to the table. But, you know, a great group of players right there.
Speaking of that, this is Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. You got a little something out of there. You got a freshman running back, man. How y'all doing what y'all do on these sidelines, asking and getting these coaches to tell all the stories during camp? Good stuff, Wilton. Good information there. Talk a little bit about your thoughts in terms of what's going on with Jackson in their camp and what you got out of that press conference there.
I think the biggest thing I took away from the press conference was his emphasis on making sure the offensive line and defensive line are strong this season. And it kind of goes back to Charles' point of, like, you know, depending on how the quarterback play is, but we all know that the quarterback play is contingent upon what that offensive line looks like. And in years, it's at certain times, even just going back to when Shedeur Sanders was a quarterback, we saw how many times, at times, he had to run for his life at times. So we're going to have to see, or we're going to be looking to see how strong that offensive line is going to look. That's going to allow, if Jacobian Morgan or whoever the starter is going to be, but we'll say for now, if it is Jacobian, will he be able to sit in the pocket, make passes? I mean, obviously, we've seen him be able to move around and get the ball downfield. He has a strong arm. We've seen him make, you know, those longer passes down the field, but he didn't necessarily have that full season last year. Now he's going to have a full season. Now he's going to be required to put the ball down, be able to throw the ball downfield to be able to open up that running game. So I think the biggest emphasis that Coach Taylor was really emphasizing was the offensive, defensive line, and special teams. I can tell you for sure he will never go into another game without a punter or a kicker. He will probably every press conference he's going to emphasize we got to have a kicker. We have to have a healthy kicker and a healthy punter at all times. He will never be like that again.
I can understand why, and great points you make there. let's turn the page a little bit. We got some insight about camps going on. Went all the way from Houston to Jackson. That's Houston, Texas to Jackson, Mississippi, for some great insight in terms of what's going on throughout SWAC camps. And we'll get some more insight from other coaches as we kind of close things out as we get prepared. But the big news of the day, FAMU interim president, Dr. Timothy Beard, asked his leadership team, resignations from the HBCU game day, provided this updates. And when I first heard the messages coming out, and I was like, the entire leadership team. And for me, I was like, I have never seen anything like that. And I talk about the business side as well in terms of large companies, Fortune 500 companies. I can't recall a time when you talked about the entire leadership team from a institution or company being asked to resign or being summarily fired, essentially, and pushed out. So it'll be fascinating to kind of see what this looks like. There's some updates that says that he may actually interview some of these folks in terms of keeping them in their place. That would be intriguing to find out that there would be some continuity as you get into the academic year. Classes at FAMU start on August 26th. To give you some updates in terms of what that looks like. Obviously, early registration was back in April. So you got that in the books, but people are coming back as they get ready to get into housing. July 1st, residency fees, classification type things will coming in. The residency hall opens first thing August the 19th in terms of folks moving in place when they can get in there. Obviously, camp is done, so your athletic programs in terms of volleyball and football for FAMU, they do not have women's soccer, so you don't have to worry about that early season getting going. They're there. They're in place moving forward. They asked the number 2 to move up in terms of Robinson, who has been the athletic director or interim position before. So that's going to be intriguing to see him be able to at least hit the ground running, I think, a little bit because he's familiar with a lot of operations stuff. But still, that means somebody has to backfill the work that he's responsible for. I put this out there in our personal chain that I'm not sure if people understand that. But based on what came out, you're talking about the chief operating officer. That's basically your CFO in a lot of areas in terms of your financial component of the university. Who are you backfeeding to talk about who's going to lead that? So that means all your financial stuff in terms of your travel from your teams, that needs to place. So that's going to be fascinating to kind of see what that looks like. The provost office, my understanding, when you talk about the leadership team, that's over all your professors, all your research, all your grant. Who's going to backfill that information? That's part of your academics in regards to making sure the eligibility piece from an academic perspective, not only including athletics, but your retention and all those kind of things. It's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. Your general counsel, that is your legal folks that review your contracts, not just from athletics perspective, but in terms of the institution university. So who's going to backfill that role? And who's going to backfill the person that you filling in that? Because you hadn't hired somebody new. Now, maybe he has a way that he's going to do hires pretty fast. But what does that mean in terms of the vetting situation? How much knowledge does the number 2 person have in regards to their role? Are they doing both the number 1 and the number 2 role? Who's splitting this up? Who's making that decision? Obviously, athletic director, VP, with a lot of people focus on, has moved on. The chief of staff, that's the person that organizes everything for the president's office. That individual is let go. Communication of director, all your information that goes out to the information. And they said several other key cabinet positions, VP, I would imagine, of your student affairs, student services. What about your chief of police? Oftentimes your chief of police or security, they're on the president council. Does that include that individual? Who's going to be responsible and backfilling that? This was just made, so it'll be interesting to me Did you call out to the second person in charge to see that they were ready to take the leadership? Did you feel comfortable with the person that is going to be backfilling these roles? How long is this stuff going to be vacant in terms of the position? If you're talking about the person that's backfilling these roles, how much experience do they have in this? So you're talking about a lot of institutional knowledge that you basically just dismissed. So I'm not sure for those that are outside of this that haven't had higher education experience, thought what this means. A lot of times, obviously, the sensational news point of saying all these changes took place is something that you grab onto. And obviously, as sports fans, we look at what this means from Tiffany Dawn Sykes. So I should say Michael Smith will be the associate athletic director. He'll be moving up and taking a lot of the responsibilities. But as the associate, that means he was second in charge, which I imagine that his plate was really full. Now he's going to be doing both positions or getting somebody to backfield, and who is that going to be as things move forward? So a lot of ways I'm concerned in regards to what this looks like for an institution. And obviously the president, I'm sure, is doing his best judgment in terms of Dr. Timothy Beard in terms of experience, but I'm fascinated to see what this looks like. So this is something to keep your eyes on in terms of the long-term track of how institution moves forward, and more importantly, who will ultimately get these roles as a full-time position. I do not like to use the word permanent, because as you see, there is no such thing as permanent in the business world out there. Who will get these in full-time capacity moving forward to help Florida A&M University continue to do the good things they've done, move the institution forward. With that being said, I know I put a lot on the table. Wilton, what are your thoughts in terms of my comments, in terms of maybe giving you a little more insight at the level of what was announced today by the president asking for these resignations?
Dr. Cavil, I think you summed up everything. As a person who is, used to reporting sports, but then also teaches on the collegiate level, all those things matter. And you start talking about not only are these athletes, how the way they perform on the field, but like, let's just say just these athletes in general, they're still students too, and they have to go to classes too. And so beyond that, it's just like, to your point of, if everybody's doing somebody else's position and somebody has to backfield somebody else, it's like, are we really getting anything done? Or are we just trying to keep things afloat? And what we do know is that, there's something called controlled chaos, but in this case, it's not controlled. I mean, because everybody's doing something that either they were doing previously, but now they're adding something else to it. And so you're doing something that maybe you don't necessarily know all the rest of the details on how to do it. And you're literally doing it on the fly. And so it's like, when you have to do that, which a lot of times different businesses, not even just with higher education, but different businesses, you see that people do that all the time. But sometimes, actually oftentimes, you'll see mistakes. Now, how those mistakes are covered, that depends on the business and what type of leader you are. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so how they navigate that, the president that's in charge, how they navigate that rotation of things with a very short time span to do it, it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. In terms of those thoughts, good points made, Wilton Jackson, the second, and I'm glad you put them to the table, because that's what I wanted to kind of showcase. Charles, any additional points that you wanted to kind of put out there based on what I put on the table to give a little more insight in terms of the depth of how this covers the institution in a lot of different ways?
Well, I think both of you all hit on some very good points, and I think, unfortunately, it's inevitable when you have a domino effect, and I've been part of this in my prior corporate environment, where you had a huge change in terms of senior leadership, the inevitability that something will slip through the cracks. The good fortune that I will say that I was able to watch was the approach was different. It was a more phased approach in terms of changing out some of the positions within senior leadership. And it took over the course of a year for some of those positions to have changed. So, and even with that, the inevitability that there was more pressure, quote unquote, going downstream. on every business unit from what I was able to see. And the hope, at least, is that Florida A&M is able to sort of survive this, as you put it, this controlled chaos, Wilton, to the best of their ability. But it's very tough when you're talking about so many positions affected. Somebody has to backfill something else. Somebody has to backfill something else. And overall, how does it affect the customer service of the student? That's the most important thing.
Great point. When you talk about the customer service of the students and all other folks, particularly when you get into athletics, now you're talking about your alumni engagement. And I'm sure, many people had their concerns of what took place at FAMU. And to some degree, I'm sure this is obviously a fallout, but fascinating to see what that looks like. The last thing I'll say there is obviously when you look at athletics, since we're a sports show, the AD, Tiffany Sykes, had a 3-year contract. I believe it ended in December of 25. So I'd be surprised if she submitted a resignation. She probably was obviously given her paper, because if you submit the resignation, what does that do to the contract in terms of boiling it out versus being dismissed, meaning that they are responsible for paying the remainder of the contract, or at least if they choose not to, then you have legal grounds to seek for your money. So that's another thing, because now you're adding additional cost on top of this decision that made, because obviously with Mike stepping up, now you have to supplement his salary to some degree in terms of the added responsibilities as acting as the AD in this period of time. And then you got to do a search, and you got to do a search for all these positions. As a state institution, obviously, you can put somebody in as interim or acting, but at some point when you want to do a full-time position, all these have to have a search in the process in terms of the last person. And how long will that take? So how long will these people be in these interim and acting roles is something to keep your eyes on as well. With that being said, thank you for your time. A lot of good dialogue, great information out there in terms of the HBCU landscape, and it continues to churn like nothing else as we get into hopefully getting some news of what's going to take place on the playing surface. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, I want to thank Wilton Jackson II coming on here and giving us some great insight. Look forward as we continue to negotiate. I guess you're trying to look for that 3-year contract as well.
You know what? You could just give me 6 months, and we'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Well, I was just trying to go month to month, week to week, but man, these 6 months, 3 years, that's tough. Again, thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday as we give you the unveil of the top 7 of the mid-major division. These gentlemen will be out doing their things on assignment. So we'll bring 2 more group back in. As we said last Thursday, we had fun. So we're going to try to bring AD back in and give some updates to see if we can get Stephen Gaither as well, as his stuff kind of went viral as he upset the apple cart last week. We'll see what he has to say, maybe bringing him back in terms of what that looks like. See if we can get Mike out of his working assignment and get him on a little bit as well. We'll see what that looks like. Can't promise you. Mike is always on assignment. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, DrKenyattacavil. Even though I hadn't been much on Twitter as of late, but we'll see if you can get you that information to keep it going. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, one is on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon. With that being said, Wilton, you've been doing this pretty good. Let's see if you can keep that going. Charles?
Of course.
Lecture.
Wilton? Dismiss. He got it, man. Man. We work on that little 3-week contract. Let's see what